3 minutes after 12. We're going to go ahead and get started. Look like hopefully everyone can hear me, even those on the phone. My name is John Sills, and the product manager for OpenCCC. This invitation went out inviting you all to take a preview into the redesign work that we're doing for OpenCCC. I'll go ahead and go through a short presentation with time for question and answers at the end. So look forward to hearing from all of you at the end and answering any questions you may have. So first, I just wanted to brief everyone really quickly on what is OpenCCC. We commonly refer to OpenCCC at the Tech Center as account. It's the precursor to submitting a CCC apply application. And what does it do? It currently assigns a user a CCCID and essentially creates them an account. This account provides a platform for users to save and submit applications to any CCC apply college, as well as it aggregates and saves data from MyPath activities. So any activity that a user engages in that requires a login at MyPath uses the OpenCCC account. So as we begin talking about, when we talked about redesigning this product, we identified some business problems that needed to be addressed. First of all, AB 3101 requires a streamlining of the application process to the community college system. So that was one of our first needs that we identified. Next, we know that the application is not responsive to mobile devices. Currently works okay if you turn your phone sideways into a landscape mode, but it is not responsively designed and not an easy user experience on a mobile device. We also know that the application for an account does not support multiple languages. So there is no multiple language support built in. It's not easily updated or improved. So it sits on an older technology stack, as well as it's tied very tightly right now to CCC apply. So an update to OpenCCC requires currently in its current version requires an update or an update to CCC apply. And we've also heard from the field that account recovery is onerous. It's not a very good user experience for recovering an account. And this drives up duplication and error rates within the application and the database. So to address these problems, we're going to make we've started with making some backend improvements in the application. And the first one was to separate OpenCCC from CCC apply. Get them on and in doing so, update the technology stack. And that's this microservices backend. So we're moving to a more modern architecture that includes application programming interfaces or APIs. So we're looking forward down the road to be able to integrate with other applications, and the current technology structure to do so for interacting and integrating with other platforms is these APIs. So we know we need those included in any redesign. As well, we have two separate tools that are currently used by OpenCCC support, and we're going to replace those support tools with a product called KeyCloak that's going to manage our user accounts in the back end. So our agents, frontline agents, will only have one tool that they'll need to deal with, and it'll also reduce the amount of support needed for those tools. So we've seen that, oh wow, we would like to upgrade the tools, but they're not easily upgraded. They're also on some old technology. And by replacing those with KeyCloak, we'll we won't need to force out any updates to those support tools, and we'll just use the built-in tools in Keycloak and configure them to support the support agents as needed. We also heard from the field that there are duplicates out there, and while the duplication rate is extremely low, we do identify duplicates from time to time. And in the past, we've instructed colleges to just use their most recent a user's most recent CCCID. So what we'd like to do is create a tool to merge duplicates so that any data is preserved. And that it can all be consolidated into a single CCCID when those duplicates do rear their head and we find them. So beyond the backend improvements, we also are going to do some user interface improvement. Obviously, we're going to have a new UI. My team has been tasked with doing mobile first design and creating a new UI. So all of our demos, every time we look at the application, we look at it in at least an emulated mobile design, so that we can take a look at how it's going to be presented to a user on a mobile phone or tablet. As you can see from the screenshot of our current prototype, this is a Galaxy S5 view emulated on a Chrome browser, and this is how we operate and how we work and how we demo the application, so that our team is seeing what this is going to look like to mobile users first. As you also see from the screenshot here on the right, is that we're integrating OpenCCC into MyPath. So we're collapsing brands and trying to narrow that branding down. And one way we decided to do so would be to collapse OpenCCC into MyPath. Currently, if you're in MyPath and attempt to perform an action that requires you to be logged in or have an account, it actually kicks the user out to OpenCCC to either log in or create an account, and then they get redirected back into MyPath. So by embedding the account creation and login into MyPath, we will be able to collapse one brand, being OpenCCC, which for the most part, users have no idea what it is, that it even exists. And we'll collapse it into a tool that allows users to actually interact and use their account. So right now, OpenCCC just lets you log in and use your account, and there's not a lot there. So next, we are looking at internationalization as well. So in all of our UI screens, we are including internationalization to be built in, with the expectation that our first secondary language will be Spanish. And in our initial first secondary language release would be in Spanish version. But in order to do so, my UI designers are having to work and include tags. Include tags that allow generation of files that have translated the application into a secondary language. These tags are generic; they're not specific to Spanish, and they'll allow us to add additional translation files and be able to open up to additional languages in the future as well. Enhanced security. We have mobile phone validation. As you can see from the screenshot on the right here, we're opening the account creation with requesting a unique mobile phone, and then texting a validation code to the user to validate that cell phone is valid and belongs to them. We're doing a very similar thing with email. So as you can see from the screenshot on the right, if a user selects to use email instead, perhaps they don't have a mobile phone, don't want to use their mobile phone, they're presented with a very similar screen to this, except that it's email driven. and we'll email the verification code to them, and then they can verify their email. So in this way, we have a validated, verified form of communication with the user at the time of account creation. We're also adding in some invisible reCAPTCHA for the users. So at this point, reCAPTCHA, if it detects that a user is a live user, they never see it. They'll never see the reCAPTCHA. Don't have to interact with it. It's an algorithm from Google that looks at a user's screen usage, and if it detects that they think it's a bot, then we'll fire off the reCAPTCHA workflow, and a user would have to interact with reCAPTCHA and to get past and create their account. And then we're also updating the password requirements to a more modern version and a standardized version that the CCC Security Center has recommended. I'd go to pause there. I see Melissa had a question in the chat around internationalization. By this version of internationalization, we are just talking about multiple languages. And Melissa's also concerned with Chinese firewalls. We are in our current iteration of reCAPTCHA in OpenCCC. We are using a Google address in the code that actually goes out and pulls the reCAPTCHA. We will be replacing that with a reCAPTCHA.net URL that should get by the Chinese firewalls by not calling Google directly. It'll go directly to reCAPTCHA, and that's on the recommendation of reCAPTCHA and Google's internationalization usage for being able to use the app, for being able to use reCAPTCHA in countries where Google may be blocked. Some more user interface improvements that we have integrated. As you'll see, we're going to streamline the application. We currently ask for a lot of information from a user. It takes quite a bit of time and some of those pieces of information folks are not comfortable giving out. So we have removed the Social Security number requirements, or even the question at all. It's not a requirement. It can be, you can check a box and not enter it in the current application, but we've removed the Social Security number collection from OpenCCC completely. So you would not need to provide a Social Security number to create an account. You'll never be asked for it. There's no checkbox to get out of it, etc. The current application uses a username and PIN as well as security questions. Heard from the field that security questions feel intrusive to end users. And for the most part, the industry is moving away from them. They're easily socially engineered and hacked. So they're not the greatest way to protect an account. As well, as far as username goes, we're removing the username, and users will log in with the validated piece of information that they provided us. So either that cell phone number that they validated, or the email address that they validated at the time of account creation. They'll use that as their username in the future, along with the new secure password. And the PIN requirement is also being removed. We also, in order to comply with our streamlining, have the use of some skip logic where applicable. So far, our skip logic is around, where we've implemented it is around a user's home address, and we ask the user immediately if they're homeless, and then if they say yes, we don't need to ask them for an address. So we kind of skip the address entry portion. So that's our current implementation in one case of skip logic, where we're able to make this a little bit easier on the user. So I see we have a lot of questions in the chat around Social Security number, and address that now before we move on. Social Security number will become part of the application. So if a user creates an account and then moves on to CCC Apply to actually send an application to a college, they will be asked to provide a Social Security number. It has many uses. We know the federal government has asked us before that we need to be collecting it as a system. We know that it's used for financial aid, etc. It's obviously not a requirement to have a Social Security number, but we will attempt to collect it in the application in the future. We didn't feel like it really belongs in just creating an account to go do career research on MyPath, and it was a stumbling block for folks that are just trying to create an account to do to perform other actions rather than just applying to the college. Sorry. We've also seen account recovery is a problem. So we've heard this from users. We've looked at the data in our database and see that duplicates typically end up being created by users that were unable to recover their account. We've also gotten, I've gotten really direct feedback from folks in the field of sitting down with users and attempting to help students recover their account, and how the workflow just is not very, it's not very user friendly and can be pretty difficult. So what we're going to do is, currently, if a user attempts to recover their account, we present them with a very, very generic message that says, yeah, we've sent you an email. Well, we don't tell them where that email went to. And a couple of months ago, I sat down with a group of students at Sierra College and asked them to go through account recovery. And pretty much every one of them went to their Sierra College email account, and they were stopped at that point. They're like, well, I never got the email. Well, in fact, they weren't Sierra College students when they created their OpenCCC account. They gave us a different email address, one that they had prior to becoming a Sierra College student. And when I instructed them that that's where they needed to go to find the recovery email, that the light bulb went on, and most of them could go recover that, get that recovery email, unless they had no longer had access to that email address. So really, we're going to improve the UX to provide information to the end user when sending out a recovery email, a recovery message. We're going to provide them the ability to either have it texted to them or send it to an email, and then also in that messaging, provide a masked email or a masked phone number so that the user has an idea of where that recovery message is going to. As well, we're working with our support agents to have the ability to have an outgoing phone call from support. So my idea here for account recovery is to have three options. An email sent to the user, a text message sent to a validated mobile phone, or request an outgoing call from our support agents to call the end user and help them through the recovery process. So that will be our improved account recovery pieces. And then we're also adding in the ability to collect consent for colleges to contact. So in our user screens where we're collecting contact information, we're going to start with just a checkbox allowing colleges to contact students based on this, based on their preference, whether they would like to be contacted or not, and then be able to deliver those contacts via glue to colleges, so that if we have students that are interested in a college or are in a certain area, colleges are able to reach out and and contact them before an application gets submitted to the college or created. As well, this consent should follow over into apply users that start an application at a specific college, but may or may not complete the application. And this consent would allow that college to reach out to them, provide assistance in completing the application, provide them resources that could help them in the application process. So move forward. Future versions of this, I'd like to see, I plan to build this out into a little bit more robust screen of its own, and really ask students if they're interested in colleges, specific colleges, colleges in a specific region, or colleges that provide specific programs or online programs. So that's some of the future development that's planned around this. But initially, it's going to be just an opt-in or opt-out for consents for the college to contact the student prior to at the time of account creation. I'm also in the midst of forming an advisory group, and we're looking at creating a cross-functional advisory group of IT folks, admissions and records, student services, etc. And if anybody would be interested in receiving some information and possibly taking part, I'd love to hear from you in the future. As we form this group, I'll be reaching out to folks that show some interest. So we're starting with a subgroup of the MyPath advisory group. But we do see that we'd like to open this up to the field and add in some more additional functional groups that may not be represented there. Questions? I can jump into the chat and see what we have here. Looks like someone asked, around the consent to contact. It is going to be an opt-in or an opt-out, and we'll provide the validated method of contact that user provided. So if they validated their mobile number, you'll know that it's been validated by that user and is not someone else's cell phone number. So yeah, I think I might answer the second question. We're going to provide the validated form of communication, and that's going to be will be their primary method of contact, whichever method has been validated. We've heard from the field of mobile numbers coming through in the download client, and those having not been validated, and getting some nasty feedback from the owner of that mobile number about, why are you contacting me? I've never been associated with your institution, etc. So if we're able to send you down a validated cell phone number, you'll know that user at the time of account creation got a code and validated that cell phone at the time they created their account. Obviously, they may move on and that cell phone may be assigned to someone else, but at least at the time that we gathered the information and passed it on to you, it was validated. There's a question in the chat about, is consent asked during the account creation or via CCC apply? So we are going to be asking for consent in the account creation. In OpenCCC, there'll be a checkbox collecting consent from the student user to be contacted by colleges and representatives of the chancellor's office. When will these updates be live? That's a great question. We're looking at, before the first of the year, having an alpha release and getting into allowing some colleges to get in and take a look at the application, provide feedback, etc. Piloting with a small group of users, as well as collecting student feedback through the foundation to be able to inform a beta release and an eventual production release early 2020.
John, can you, this is Jennifer, can you address the question regarding a student having multiple IDs and having duplication of effort for application purposes? I think there's a misunderstanding about that. It's one of the questions in the chat. And also I see some acronyms in here that would be helpful to have them spelled out. So I see SWP and ICT specifically, if you can include in the chat what those are so we can have them for reference as well. Not you, John, but the person typing the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, so I see Paula was asking about the purpose of the CCCID was to streamline applications to multiple colleges where they enroll. That's accurate, and it will still continue to be accurate, Paula. Logging into their account will allow students to manage applications to multiple colleges. I think ideally, when you look at the CCCID from a whole from a large scale perspective, it would be great. I mean, we've built it so that in the future, this could be the identifier at all the colleges. Like if a student was taking courses at multiple colleges, the CCCID could be their only identifier. However, currently workflows at all of the colleges that I'm aware of take the CCCID and all the attached information from the account creation and the application, and then upon feeding that into feeding it into your ERP or your student information system, a new campus ID gets generated, and campuses are using that as a main identifier for the student. However, when you look at it from a higher level, from a system level, the CCCID should be attached to a student that's taking courses at multiple colleges, and should only have one CCCID.
I see there's a question about, instead of asking applicants to opt in or opt out, note that their creation gives colleges consent to contact them. We are working, we have multiple representatives within the Technology Center looking at examples from across other institutions and organizations. So CSU specifically, what we want to be able to do is provide colleges with in-progress application information, which is what has been a big request from the field. And there has been one side of the argument that is, well, by creating the account, don't they understand that they're going to give this information to a college at some point? And we're working on how to make sure that we're wording that so that we can get as much information up front as possible from the students. And so that's currently under development, and we'll go through legal review to make sure some things have changed with regards to providing information and opt-in versus opt-out. We want to make sure that we're in alignment with, but our hope is to be able to get that as early as possible in the process. And a lot of it is around the word intent and intent of the student when they approach the process of creation of the account and interacting with the products that a college has to offer. So more to come on that in terms of how it plays out. We're hoping to be able to get it so that colleges can get as much information as they can once a student engages.
Yeah, I think our preference would be that that we default to opted in, but yeah, there's some, we're going through legal and discussing those options as we move forward.
For colleges who do not adopt MyPath, if you want to answer that, Don, or do you want me to?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
So colleges who do not adopt MyPath, they'll still see that it'll still be the same process for students. What we're looking at is streamlining the look and feel across the suite of products out of the Technology Center that supports student onboarding. So students will they'll still log in. If they say, I'm ready to apply, they'll be prompted to start their account. They'll go into CCC Apply just as they would. In terms of, is a college required to adopt MyPath to see these changes? No, this is a global change to the account creation and management process, but it does integrate with MyPath for those who are using it, and there will be benefits on that front, but there is not a requirement for adopting MyPath, and it won't change the look and feel and functionality of the account process if you don't. Regarding recording the origination IP for colleges to know which students went to apply from a given college or district, we are working on a couple of projects within the Technology Center regarding reporting and Google Analytics and some other pieces that we hope to be able to offer more robust information to colleges on that front. So that is something that we did a pilot on back in May to start looking at what information we can get in terms of IP address and where students are coming from and where they're ending up with regards to college and district. So stay tuned on that. If you're interested in more information, then reach out, and we're happy to have you involved in making sure that we have the requirements correct for what colleges are really looking for. And that's something that we are just kicking off with this new fiscal year beyond that pilot. So Google Analytics and a more robust report center coming from the Technology Center.
Yeah, there's also a question in the chat regarding being redirected to OpenCCC and why, etc. So one of the reasons of us collapsing OpenCCC and the account creation into MyPath is the ability of MyPath to brand to the college's branding and hopefully get rid of some of that ambiguity, or at least have the user not feel like they've been completely moved over to a separate application and then back to apply, etc. So what's not seen in my screenshots there of our development is the college logo underneath the MyPath logo header at the top that appears when a student user comes from a specific college's or district's website. And that's even for colleges that don't adopt MyPath. Even the non-adopted MyPath colleges, we have their logos, and those appear when a user, there's the ability for those to appear to a user, even if the college has not fully adopted MyPath. And Alexander, I'm not familiar with CCGI. Can you elaborate?
I can speak to this one a little bit, and I see Ben Baird is on the call as well. So in terms of integration with CCGI, that's something that we've been working on in partnership with the California College Guidance Initiative, CCGI. We actually, with the Multiple Measures Placement Service, we were able to set up a partnership with CCGI, and for students who originate their CCC Apply application process through californiacolleges.edu, or I'm sorry, I forget the full URL. If they originate from CCGI, there is a point at which we are able to share the SSID and transcript information that's available, and we're looking at taking that integration further. So there is that in progress. And Ben, do you want to add anything? I know I screwed up part of that.
No, that sounds great. Thanks, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Sounds accurate to me.
Okay. So yes, watch for that. And for colleges who are partnering with CCGI, you'll see some additional integrations from the Tech Center as we move forward. We're looking to leverage the CCCID on that front to combine it with the SSID and get what we can out of their student record from K-12.
I see Paula's comments around regional efforts to create certificates or programs. Yeah, that's something that, as I build out the consent to contact screens, Paula, that we were interested in looking at, and offering students the ability to look at regional degrees, maybe fully online degrees, so they could be contacted by a college that offers a specific degree that they're interested in if it's fully online and might be at the other end of the state. So some of the future build out of us in this consent to contact is who, instead of just a blanket allowing community colleges and the chancellor's office entities to contact, targeting directly, letting the student target directly who they want to be contacted by, so that they would get some more hopefully some more pertinent information to them rather than some blanket communications.
I want to encourage all of you, if you have feedback, if you have ideas, if you have places that you'd like to offer up for gathering feedback, if you have stakeholders you want to make sure are involved, please reach out to John via the email that's posted on the screen right now. We want to make sure that as we move forward with this redesign, that we have those voices from the field taken into consideration in service of our students. So please let us know your thoughts. Continue with questions that might come up after we finish up this actual webinar, and let us know what would work for your students, and if you have specific questions, then we're happy to assist on that front.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, open to hearing from anybody in the field that has some interest here, and all of your feedback is definitely appreciated. Are there any other questions? Really have come to the end of our presentation, but I'm happy to answer any other questions before we wrap things up.
With regards to tech support improving, part of what we're looking at with regards to account creation and recovery is a means for our support staff to have a better ability to help students. As John mentioned, he himself went through the process personally and then with multiple students. And the challenges and walls that came up with regards to recovery, we are addressing with the redesign. So we are hopeful that these will assist with the tech support. And that's something that we're constantly looking at as well. When we talk about our Google Analytics and our report center, that's also something that we have our support staff involved in to make sure that we're supporting them and that we're collecting that kind of information. If they hit a wall with a student with regards to recovery, we don't want students to create duplicate accounts. We don't want them to end up not being able to recover. And so we are looking to make sure that that's all part of this effort. Regarding testing for accessibility, yes, absolutely. We have all of our products are tested for accessibility. We're currently through the Statewide Accessibility Center and the standards for WCAG. I believe it's 2.0, and it's changed a little bit. It was AA, and it's now a little higher standard. So that is all part of what we're doing.
Yeah, none of our software gets released without going through that Accessibility Center and a full accessibility review. It's definitely part of our release process and being signed off by Sean Keegan that the accessibility review has been completed and that we are in compliance. We'll comment on Shasta's regards to support improving, and we'll take it as some feedback around about frontline agents unable to help help a user. Where do they go? And look at, is there possible work with our support group? Is there possible improvements to the handoff from tier 1, which is 24/7 available by phone, and our upper levels, which are not as available. We don't have around-the-clock availability. So there may be some places we can make improvements there. And I'll take that as some feedback. So I appreciate it.
So in regards to duplicate accounts at the college level, one of the things that's also happening behind all of this is in regards to master data management and trying to make sure that we have the current updated information for a student. And so it's my understanding that that duplication at the local level will play into efforts around master data management going forward, and what we're calling the student profile, to make sure that we can merge them if we find them to be duplicated, and also to make sure that we're using the current information. A lot of times a student will apply via CCC Apply or set up an account through OpenCCC, and then all of their contact information will change, or they'll have some major record change at the local level that isn't reflected in the apply data and may impact other factors that are currently pulled from apply. So that's part of the master data management effort that's underway at the Chancellor's office as well. So more to come on that.
Yeah, and definitely, I don't think we've worked through any of the workflows around a merge tool and exactly how that would work. So we'll definitely be collecting feedback from the field on what would be helpful from a college's perspective. Yeah, we definitely, as we bring in legacy users, we've worked through some workflows around how to address those legacy users when they attempt to log in. They will be required to update their password to the current password requirements. As well, we'll be collecting a validated form of communication with them, be it mobile phone or email. So have them go through that validation process to either validate their phone or their email, as well as update their password. All right. So barring any other questions, I do want to thank everybody for your participation today and attendance. Look forward to any feedback that you'd like to provide. My contact information here. And if you're interested in participating in our advisory group, I would love to be able to reach out to you when we form that group. Yeah, and duplicates, there's a question or a comment around duplicate CCCIDs being ones that have changed their email from one term to another. Yeah, and so how do we go about getting those? We've also seen a lot of the duplicates are the inability to recover. And so one way to create a new CCCID or a new account is to change your email address. So we definitely want to address this and make it easier for account recovery. Any other final questions? If not, I'm gonna go ahead. There's a question around users with the same email address. So at this point, with all of the major providers that we recommend, as far as free email addresses are free, we're going to start enforcing unique emails in the database. So users with the same email address, if we have two users that are using the same email address, one of them attempts to log in and we see that it's not a unique email address, we're going to try to prompt them for a new email address or a unique mobile phone number and validate that with them, and then use that as a primary contact for that person, for that user. At the release of this, at the release of version 7.0.0, the question is, when will you start enforcing unique emails? And that'll be at the release of 7.0.0 version of OpenCCC. So this redesign work. And thank you for those of you that volunteered in the chat to participate. I'll make sure, Rebecca, could you send me the text of this chat so I can mine that for these contacts? That would be great. In addition to the recording, thank you. Anything? Any other questions? All right, great. Thank you again, everyone. I appreciate your time. Again, the feedback we get from the field is invaluable, and we appreciate it very much. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.